Hi everyone, how's everyone doing here today? Just wanted to say thank you for watching. It's been a little bit, and guess what? We got a nice sunny day here, a little breezy, and as you might hear, the birds and the squirrels, they are in full chirping mode, so enjoy the nature. Anyhow, the reason I wanted to talk about is recently I was at an event, a St. Patrick's Day parade called the St. Pat's Parade, which I naturally videotaped it. I did it a few years ago, and was doing volunteer work for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Some of you don't like her, that's fine. I'm not really here to talk about her. I'm here to talk about the event itself. And it's going to take me some time to edit because, quite frankly, I'm a little backed up. I've got other events, and both political and recreational, so editing takes a little time, and a filmmaker's job is never done. Anyhow, cut to the chase. The theme of this, it was St. Patrick's Day, obviously, but so you saw all the paraphernalia, you know, the green hats, the shamrocks, all of it, the full 9 yards. However, there was also a sub-theme going on with it. And it was in support of LGBTQ rights and the rights of transgenders, also in support of drag queens, you know, their performances, and above all, drag queen reading to children, which I know has become rather controversial given how it's been so ridiculously politicized, even though a lot of this has been around for quite some time. Hey guys, keep it down please. So, I wanted to bring this up in particular because I know there's also religious angles to it, and I'm not necessarily a religious person myself, and I'm going to go into my little background and you'll understand why. Is that, given my upbringing, the time I was born also, I was born and raised Roman Catholic. So, you know, I had the baptism, communion, confirmation, the whole 9 yards. And as far as my personal faith goes, you know, I go to church, I've been to confession, I try and do the right thing, I consider myself a moral person, even though I'm not perfect, not even close, let's be real here. But, and I'm not being trying to be sarcastic or comical, the point I'm trying to make is that I'm also a member of a Catholic organization, which I'm not going to name it, I'm not going to go into details. They do a lot of good things, a lot of terrible things that I get involved with from time to time. So some of my beliefs in this video might seem a little questionable, and I understand that. And for one thing, I don't do it to be provocative. I'm not trying to push anyone's buttons, and I'm not trying to disrespect anyone's religious beliefs either, okay? Your faith is your own and your very own. It's not for me or anyone else to tell you what to do. I don't try and push my faith on other people. You know, even if I was more heavily active in it, I still wouldn't do that. So, I am supportive of LGBTQs. I've made that clear in the past, and also of drag shows. Now, here's the point I'm going to try and make that I know some of you, you know, religious types are going to immediately jump on. Is that when I was at the event and in past events that I've had, not that I've been to a whole slew of events. I did the Pride Parade last summer, and there's been this one. Seeing people in drag sometimes makes me a little uncomfortable. Okay? Now I know what some of you are immediately going to say, oh, see, you're contradicting yourself, you're a hypocrite, this and that. No, that's not the case, which I'll break it down for you. And I believe it has something to do with psychology, my own personal psychology. I'm not a psychologist, so I could be mistaken, but I don't think I am. And I was born in a decade, the 80s, where prior to that, like within the 60s and 70s, most people, as far as I knew, their purpose was to meet, find that special person, fall in love, marry, and immediately start having kids. As gay people have told me in the past, when I was younger, I fell under the category as a breeder. That's what you do. You meet someone, you marry, and you breed. Well, I didn't go that route. The marrying part, yes. The straight part, yes. Children, no. That's a whole nother discussion, but it's also irrelevant because that's not what I'm trying to explain here. And it's that growing up, we were always taught that, you know, being gay wasn't considered cool. It wasn't the in thing. It was a type you were ridiculed or bullied about. You know, if you dress feminine or anything like that, you were considered a pansy. That was the keyword they did back then, you know. There were other gay slurs, which I'm not going to repeat, but you kind of get the idea. So I think doing that, it kind of psychologically makes me a little uncomfortable in the presence of certain drags. And that's not to say I'm like that 24/7 when there's one nearby. There are some that are rather funny looking, and that's by design. They just put on some flamboyant costume to entertain, you know, whether it's for children, adults, or both. There are some that, you know, purposely dress feminine and masculine at the same time. That's where I kind of raise an eyebrow, and I wish I wasn't like that. I wish I was a little more open-minded. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that at least I try and make the effort to be open-minded, because in the end, even if they didn't have all these laws, it wouldn't really bother me, you know, the pride parades, the drag shows and everything like that. As I mentioned once, I was at the pride parade. There were some people in drag there, but I was just like, okay, you know. Was there maybe some awkwardness? Yeah, because some of them are rather unusual looking. Some of them are very attractive looking, which can be a little scary to some straight people like that. I'll admit it, okay? Why am I saying that? Because I gotta be honest. You know, in order for me to make the point that I'm trying to make. And on a side note, guess what? I attended a gay wedding once. It was years ago. It was a older female couple. I don't recall it being a priest or a pastor, obviously, that did the wedding vows, but beyond who did it, the routine was pretty much just like any other wedding. It wasn't all like black and white, like you see with most conventional weddings or Catholic weddings, and I've been to quite a few of those. You know, they put on more colorful costumes and everything, not over the top, but just very stylish. It was pretty cool, actually, and overall, it was entertaining. You know, there was no outlandish behavior like that. There were no people in drag there either. But would I go to a male gating wedding? You know, if I was invited by like friends or a family member, sure I would. Why wouldn't I? You know. So my awkwardness has its limitations, and I learned to try and go past those limitations. Because again, one of the things I do believe in which I hear a lot of people on the right screaming about, the ones who are always talking about all these LGBT laws that they feel that have to be put, which I'll get into in a bit. And that is the freedom to choose. This is America. We always talk about it. Freedom, you know, free speech, the right to bear arms, you know, the right to speak your opinion, your voice. Well, what about the right for sexual orientation? What if you're born and you turn out to be gay? Don't they have that right to choose? What about the right for transgenders, you know, to identify with whoever they identify as? What if a person likes to dress up as drag? Whether they're doing it as an identity thing or it's just something they do as a profession to entertain. You know, I don't know that much about drags, but don't they have the right to choose? Aren't they free to make their own decisions about their own life that doesn't impact you in any way? And that's my first point, is that, you know, yeah, if I'm flipping through the channels and they had a RuPaul show on, I wouldn't be like, ugh, disgusting. I'd just look and be like, doesn't interest me, so I would change the channel. You can do the same thing. You don't like it, you don't have to watch it. They've had drag shows in the city all the time. I don't know how often, because I don't pay that much attention to it. And I've never been to one. But you know what? Given the way things have changed and I'm trying to be more open-minded, that doesn't mean I'm like turning gay or anything like that. That just means I explore it just to see what's the big deal about. What are people getting so worked up for? Yeah, I went to a pride parade. I had a good time. I'm still straight. I still love my wife. Yeah, I went to a, St. Patrick's Day parade that, was themed in support of LGBTQs. Why? Because I think what people are doing on the right, it's not what I think, it's what I know. They are doing is wrong, which I'll get into that too. Would I go to a drag show? Sure, why not, to see what all the fuss is about. Or even a drag reading, to children, to see what people are getting all worked up for. And something tells me that it's about as benign as can be. And yet, more and more, different states, primarily down south, from people on the right, conservatives and Republican leaders, lawmakers, all they want to do is just ban this, ban that. Meanwhile, like I said before, this stuff has been going on for years. So what do you care? Like I said before, you know, if you choose to be straight, if you're not a person who does drag, that's fine. That is your choice. You don't like the shows? Don't go to them. You don't want your kids going to drag readings at the library? Then you don't have to bring your child there, assuming you have children. You know? You can make that choice. But the whole hypocrisy comes here, which is the really main point I'm getting to, is that they all like to talk about their freedom and everything to choose, but there's an asterisk to it, and that is freedom for me, but not for thee. It's also like in Animal Farm, which I've talked about in the past, where they had a one rule, I'll rephrase it for humans, is that all humans are created equally, but some more equal than others. Naturally, they being the superior ones. So they feel like they can tell the others, the not so equal ones, what they can and can't do with their lives. This is authoritarian, this is fascist, and this is wrong. And my main point, you know, is it's not so much that I'm pro-LGBTQ or pro-drag. I am because I support them to make their choice. But more importantly, I am anti-hate. Because these movements you're seeing, one, they're not valid, and I'll explain the hypocrisy in a moment. It is all based on a foundation of hate, nothing more. Just like I talked about the term woke, which you still keep hearing, and I've talked about it in some previous videos a few times. It is nothing more than a blanket term to throw at someone or something or some movement or some way of life that you simply don't like, that you hate. And it's become so loose now, and that's also what I'm getting into. And that is the whole thing about hatred, is that it feeds. It is a nasty thing that is forever feeding. Because in addition to, it started off with just book bannings, because they claimed they were worried about drag show readings, so they had to ban all the books that were considered to be grooming their children. And they started banning that. But eventually they started banning books about ethnicity, about, you know, interactions. Why? What's so bad about that? Oh, they're racist, that's why. Oh no, they're not. They're just afraid of history, you know, because, you know, they don't want everyone to feel, you know, white people that are all racist. Well, not all white people are racist. But there's a good number of them that are, and that's where the problem comes in. How do you teach children, or as they develop, not to hate? You do that by teaching them the history. So they're claiming they want to whitewash everything just to, you know, again, save the children. It's more like de-educating, making them blind to racism and stuff like that. And also trying to expel the groups that they don't like. Minorities, LGBTQs, and above all, transgender. And the problem also with that, which I'm foreseeing, is, and history has showed us this, with other authoritarian-like leaders and fascists, is that it eventually boils down to where the main goal is, we just want our community or our society to be people just like us and only us. And also what I mentioned in a previous video, white Christian nationalism. It is not Christianity. It is hate disguised as religion to make it seem like it's something good when they're pretty much saying, if you read between the lines, we just want straight white people, nothing more. And above all, and here's where the expansion part, I'm kind of theorizing here, but I don't think I'm wrong, is where the next step would be banning religion. But hey, as I talked about before, freedom of religion, right? Well, again, free for me, but not for thee. Or well, religions are good, but some are a little better than others, and we don't want those others there. Islam, Judaism, and all that other stuff, ban it. It's woke. Oh, but wait, you support, you know, Muslims and stuff? You support these terrorists? What are you, woke? Oh, what? You're not a racist? You're okay with working with people of color? African Americans? Are you woke? You went to that St. Pat's parade and you were supporting LGBTQs and drags? Are you woke? Don't you care about the children? Yeah, I do. But in a recent video by Jon Stewart, who, brilliantly put it against this other Republican lawmaker, I forget his name, but he made the interesting point, which I mentioned before, the right to bear arms. I'm all for the Second Amendment. But I'm also for gun regulation. Why? Because that definitely does affect the lives of children. And none of these Republican conservative hypocrites, these fascists, want to even deal with that. Why? Because they don't care. They don't care about children. They don't. If they did, they would make changes to bring down the school shootings, which does, like I said, have an impact on the lives of children. Gun violence is the leading cause of death. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but the point I'm trying to make is, which Stewart made, is that guns kill more children than cancer, more than car accidents. This is a statistical fact. And above all, I've never heard of a child life being threatened or harmed, or even let alone killed, at a drag queen reading. I don't think people are bringing kids to drag shows, and if they do, that's their choice. But I've never heard of any child dying at a drag show event either. So the whole thing about, oh, we're just trying to protect the children, it is an excuse, and and they are full of it. They are just hating people, and I am anti-hate. So yeah, even though I've gone to some of these events where sometimes maybe a drag makes me a little uncomfortable, you know what? I respect their right to choose. I have no problem with drag shows. I have no problem with drags reading to children. I have no problem with LGBTQs. People should be free to date and marry whoever they choose, whether it's, the opposite gender, the same gender, or both. Person's transgender, they should be allowed to identify as whoever they feel like it. I support that, because I support the freedom as well. And that's what it's all about. You want to call me woke? That's fine. I don't care. I take that as a compliment. Because to me, anti-woke is anti-hate. And that's all these people on the right want to do. That's why they're passing all these laws. Before it started with voter suppression based on a lie, and it expanded mostly to target minority communities. Because they so believe in fairness, right? Wrong. They want to suppress the votes of minorities, primarily people of color. Now they make an excuse. Grooming and all this, child reading and stuff like that. It is a crock, because they don't care about kids. Like I said before, what do when there's a school shooting? Thoughts and prayers, and then they just move on. They don't change anything. If anything, a lot of these states, like in Florida and Texas, have been loosening gun restrictions, making it easier to get a gun. Pretty soon it's to the point where anyone can have a firearm without registration. And you know what? And when the next shooting happens, it's going to be the same thing. Kids will die, and these lawmakers who claim to care about the children, who are so pro-life, don't do anything. I forgot to mention before, stripping away a woman's rights. It hasn't just stopped it with overturning Roe v. Wade. They are more looking to ban abortion across the board. And above all, some states are making it getting an abortion, regardless of the reasons, like if it's rape or incest, rape of a child, the death penalty. I'm not kidding. That is what hate does. It poisons the mind, it sets people against each other, and it targets those that are commonly discriminated against. Minorities, LGBTQs, and trans. I know I'm getting pretty broad here, but you're getting the idea. So, I have no problem going to any of these events. I have no problem with LGBTQs or trans. The ones that do, that's their problem. That's their hate. But they're trying to make it everyone's problem. And they're doing it through lies, through a lot of bogus propaganda. You're seeing it across the board, and it is expanding. It is a serious problem, believe me. And the one thing about fascism, about authoritarianism, these leaders, they never stop until they fully get their way. And if they can get it so they can get the entire country white and straight, you can bet they will do that. Make no mistake about that. I'm being very serious. And the way to deal with that is to keep fighting back. Keep showing your support. Keep supporting the causes, the organizations that do that, by making donations, by volunteering times, and by voting. not just the midterms or presidential elections, in all elections, the primaries, and the school board elections. They're doing in Florida, trying to strip away certain board members of colleges and stuff, and replace them with specifically chosen conservative board members that are there just to push their agenda of hate. So, if you're one of the people that feeds into this nonsense, I got news for you. Fascism, it eventually impacts everyone negatively in some shape or form. You might want to say that, well, I live in a state where, they don't have these laws against drag shows, so it doesn't, or even if they did, I don't go to these events. I don't like people in drag. It doesn't affect me. But it may affect a friend of you down the road when they start doing other restrictions. You might think, well, I'm white. I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, so if they're restricting votes for minorities, that doesn't affect me. But it could. What if you disagree with something and they don't want that? No. You eventually have to fall into a category where you do exactly as they say. You got to live your life the way they say you live it. No exceptions. What if you're not? What if I'm Catholic? What if they, like I said before, come out, with laws saying, you know what, we're going to abolish all the synagogues, all the, the mosque, and above all, Catholic churches, because we want you to practice the faith of Christian. Not Christianity, white Christian nationalism. They call it Christian nationalism, but it's white Christian nationalism. In other words, we want you to hate the same people that we hate. No exceptions. You got to read the same Bible and go to the same churches that we say. No exceptions. That hasn't happened yet, but I anticipate it will. And then it'll affect you if you don't fall into that category and stuff like that. Eventually it affects anyone. And if you don't get with the program, friends, co-workers, people close to you, they might decide to rat you out and turn you in. You think I'm wrong? Some places, like I said, how they do punishments on abortions and stuff like that. Ron DeSantis is making it so blogging against him, you have to register. So if you say anything bad, you can bet there'll be, consequences. They pass enough restrictions and stuff like that, you find yourself boxed in, you could be facing those restrictions. And if you don't commit, you don't give in, you maybe have two options: leave or face the consequences. It's not a pretty picture. Some people think I'm overreacting. I don't believe I am. And we're seeing it expanding before, just like I said. So, you can do nothing and ignore it and think one day it won't happen to you or won't affect you, and find out just how wrong you are, and when you do, it'll be too late for you to do anything. Or you can stand up to it. I'm not saying you gotta love drag shows or LGBTQs. I'm just saying you don't have to hate them either. Let them live their lives. You can choose not to go to these events. But you can also choose to respect them, to not hate. That if you see a gay couple, you don't react in any way, you just shrug your shoulders. That if you hear about a drag show event, you just say, okay, whatever. That if your child is at the library and they do a drag show reading, you say it's no big deal because they're teaching that child not to hate. I want my sons and daughters to grow up not to hate. If I had any children, yes, I would want them to grow up not to hate. And you can respect other people's religions, you can respect other people's opinions, and you can vote the way you want to. But vote against the hatred. Stand up to the hatred. That's what I'm doing. I hope I made it understand. I still have my faith. I still have my morals. I'm not perfect, but like I said, I strive to be perfect. And I would definitely go to some of these other events. And before you know it, I just feel like there's no big deal here. You guys can reach that level too, but you gotta make the effort, or you at least gotta just, fight the urge to hate someone simply because you don't agree with it. Don't listen to propaganda, listen to facts. So, you take the hate out of the equation. I can never say that enough. And I really hope you understand, and I just want to thank you for watching. And when the St. Pat's video eventually does come out, I hope you watch that too and enjoy it, You better understand, you take the hate out of the equation.